Have you ever promised yourself, "This is the last time I'll think about them," only to find their name echoing in your mind again just minutes later? Have you ever wondered why someone who is no longer in your life still has so much power over your emotions? What if I told you that the person keeping you trapped is not them, but the version of them living inside your mind? Today, you are not just going to learn how to forget someone. You are going to learn how to reclaim the peace that your own thoughts have been stealing from you. There comes a moment in almost everyone's life when they realize they are no longer fighting reality, they are fighting their own memories. The relationship may have ended. The conversation may have stopped. The goodbye may have already happened. Yet somehow, the mind refuses to let go. It replays old messages, imagines different endings, creates fictional reunions, and asks questions that have no answers. The Stoic philosophers understood this struggle long before modern psychology existed. They knew that suffering rarely comes from the event itself. It comes from our attachment to what we wish had happened instead. If you cannot stop thinking about someone, this video is not about forcing yourself to forget them. It is about learning why your mind keeps returning to them and how you can finally free yourself from that invisible prison. Most people believe they miss the person who left, but often what they truly miss is the story they built around that person. The heart becomes attached not only to someone's presence but to the dreams, promises, and imagined future that never had the chance to exist. You pictured the life you would share, the milestones you would celebrate together, the conversations you thought would happen, and the happiness you believed was waiting just ahead. Over time, those imagined moments became just as emotionally real as the actual memories. This is why letting go feels so painful. You are not only grieving someone who is gone, you are grieving a future that existed only in your imagination. Stoicism reminds us that suffering grows when we confuse our expectations with reality. The mind naturally fills in empty spaces with hope, but hope without acceptance can quietly become a prison. The longer you hold on to an imagined future, the more difficult it becomes to see the present for what it truly is. You begin fighting reality instead of living in it, protecting a fantasy while life continues moving forward without your permission. The truth is that people change, circumstances change, and sometimes the person you keep holding on to no longer exists in the way you remember them. They may have chosen a different path, found a different purpose, or simply become someone who no longer belongs in your journey. Yet your mind continues replaying old memories, not because they are still alive, but because it desperately wants the unfinished story to reach the ending it once imagined. Every replay strengthens the illusion that something can still be recovered, even when reality has already spoken. Stoic philosophy teaches that peace is found not by rewriting the past but by accepting its finality. Every chapter in life has a purpose, but not every chapter is meant to become the entire book. Some people enter your life to teach resilience, reveal your strength, or help you discover parts of yourself that comfort never could. Real freedom begins the moment you stop asking why the story ended, stop negotiating with what cannot be changed, and finally accept that your life is not defined by one unfinished chapter. The ending of one story is often the quiet beginning of a far greater one that you cannot yet see. Your mind has a remarkable ability to mistake familiarity for love. One of the greatest emotional illusions is believing that because someone occupies your thoughts every day, they must still hold your heart. But constant thinking is not always proof of deep love, it is often proof of a deeply ingrained habit. The brain is designed to seek what is familiar, even when that familiarity brings pain instead of peace. If someone was once part of your daily life, your routines, your emotions, and your identity, your mind continues reaching for them simply because it has not yet learned a different pattern. This is why you find yourself remembering random conversations, revisiting old messages, or imagining impossible reunions. It is not necessarily your heart refusing to move on, it is your mind following pathways it has traveled countless times before. Stoicism teaches that we must question our first emotional reactions rather than obey them. A familiar feeling is not automatically a true feeling. Emotional attachment can disguise itself as love when, in reality, it is simply the comfort of repetition. The mind clings to what it recognizes because certainty feels safer than the unknown, even if that certainty is filled with disappointment, loneliness, and emotional suffering. This is why people often stay emotionally attached to relationships that brought more pain than joy. The unknown future feels frightening because it offers no guarantees, while familiar pain at least feels predictable. Your mind would rather return to memories it understands than face a future it cannot control. But Stoic wisdom reminds us that growth has never been born from clinging to comfort. Every moment you notice your thoughts drifting back to someone who is no longer part of your life, you are standing at a crossroads. You can continue feeding the cycle that keeps old wounds alive, or you can gently guide your attention toward the person you are becoming. Every redirection is an act of quiet strength. Every decision to invest your energy in the present instead of the past weakens the chains of emotional habit. Freedom is not achieved in one dramatic moment, it is built through countless small choices to stop glorifying familiar pain and start embracing unfamiliar possibilities. The life waiting ahead may feel uncertain today, but it also carries opportunities, peace, and joy that the past can never offer. When you stop confusing familiar suffering with genuine love, you finally create space for a future that is healthier, wiser, and infinitely more fulfilling. Imagine trying to heal a deep wound while reopening it every single day. No matter how much time passes, it can never truly close because every touch tears away the progress your body has already made. Emotional healing works the same way. Every time you reread old messages, scroll through photographs, visit their social media profile, or replay imaginary conversations that never happened, you are pulling yourself back into a chapter that your life is trying to leave behind. The pain feels fresh, not because it is new, but because you keep giving it new life. Your mind cannot distinguish between a vividly remembered experience and one that is happening in the present moment. Each memory triggers the same emotions, the same longing, and the same grief, convincing you that nothing has changed. Stoic philosophy teaches that discipline is not about pretending you feel nothing or burying your emotions beneath a mask of strength. True discipline is having the wisdom to recognize which actions nourish your peace and which ones quietly sabotage it. Every unnecessary return to the past reinforces emotional habits that keep you trapped, making healing slower with every passing day. Real healing begins when you stop participating in your own suffering. This does not mean denying that someone mattered or pretending the relationship never existed. It means accepting that constantly revisiting what has already ended cannot create a better ending. The Stoics understood that while we cannot always control our first emotional reaction, we can control the choices that follow. Every decision to close an old conversation instead of rereading it, to resist checking their profile, or to let an intrusive memory pass without feeding it is an act of self-respect. These small moments of discipline may seem insignificant, but together they become the foundation of emotional freedom. Boundaries are not walls built from bitterness, they are quiet promises you make to protect your inner peace. You do not create distance because you hate the other person, you create distance because you value your own well-being more than the temporary comfort of familiar pain. The day you stop reopening the wound is the day your heart is finally given permission to heal, your mind begins to grow quiet, and your soul finds the peace it has been searching for all along. The person who lives inside your mind is often very different from the person who exists, or once existed, in reality. Memory is not a perfect recording of the past, it is a storyteller. It quietly edits events, softens harsh moments, erases painful truths, and magnifies the memories that make you smile. Over time, your mind begins to build an idealized version of someone who seems kinder, more loving, and more perfect than they ever truly were. It highlights the laughter while hiding the tears, remembers the affection while overlooking the disappointment, and clings to rare moments of happiness as though they represented the entire relationship. This is why moving on can feel so impossible. You are not comparing your present life to reality, you are comparing it to a carefully polished memory that exists only in your imagination. Stoicism teaches that wisdom begins with seeing things exactly as they are, not as our emotions wish them to be. When we allow nostalgia to rewrite history, we imprison ourselves inside an illusion, chasing a version of someone that neither time nor reality can ever return. Take a moment to ask yourself a difficult but liberating question. are you truly missing the person they were, or are you missing the person your mind continues to recreate every time you remember them? If you were forced to relive every moment exactly as it happened, the misunderstandings, the disappointments, the unanswered questions, the loneliness, and the pain, would you still long to go back, or are you only longing for the edited highlights your memory keeps replaying? Reality has already continued its journey. They may have changed, chosen a different direction, or become someone completely different from the person you still carry in your heart. Yet your imagination remains trapped in yesterday, trying to preserve a story that time has already rewritten. Stoic philosophy reminds us that peace is born from truth, not fantasy. The moment you separate memory from reality, you stop worshipping an illusion and begin embracing what is real. That act of honest acceptance is not the end of love, it is the beginning of freedom. When your heart finally releases the person your mind invented, it creates space to heal, to grow, and to welcome a future that is grounded in truth rather than longing. One of the deepest wounds after being left behind is not always the loss of the relationship, it is the quiet belief that somehow you were not enough. The mind begins searching for flaws, replaying every conversation, every mistake, and every moment that might explain why someone walked away. You start measuring your worth through another person's decision, as if their choice has the power to define your value. But this is one of the greatest deceptions the human mind can create. Stoicism teaches that your character, your integrity, and your inner worth exist independently of anyone else's approval or rejection. Another person's inability to recognize your value does not reduce it any more than clouds diminish the brightness of the sun. People leave for countless reasons, because of their own fears, changing priorities, emotional limitations, or circumstances beyond your control. Their decision reflects their own path, not the measure of your soul. A flower does not become less beautiful because one passerby fails to notice its fragrance. A diamond does not lose its brilliance because someone mistakes it for an ordinary stone. In the same way, your dignity, kindness, and potential remain untouched by another person's inability or unwillingness to see them. Instead of spending your energy asking why they did not choose you, ask a far more powerful question: have you been choosing yourself? Have you protected your peace, honored your values, and treated yourself with the same compassion you were so willing to give someone else? Have you invested in your own growth, your own dreams, and your own happiness, or have you placed your entire sense of worth into someone else's hands? Stoic philosophy reminds us that the only approval we truly control is our own. The moment you stop chasing validation from those who walked away and begin building a life rooted in self-respect, everything changes. Your confidence no longer rises and falls with another person's attention. Your peace no longer depends on being chosen. You realize that your value was never something another person could give or take away, it was always yours to recognize. The strongest people are not those who convince everyone to stay, but those who continue to stand with dignity, purpose, and quiet confidence even when others choose to leave. When you finally choose yourself with the same loyalty you once reserved for someone else, you discover a truth that no rejection can ever destroy: your worth has always been an unshakable part of who you are, and it never needed someone else's permission to exist. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you will ever possess because it quietly shapes the direction of your entire life. Wherever your thoughts consistently travel, your energy follows, and wherever your energy flows, your future begins to take form. Every hour spent replaying old conversations, revisiting painful memories, or imagining different endings is an hour that can never be recovered. Time is the only possession that cannot be earned back, yet so many people surrender it to a past that no longer exists. Stoicism teaches that the quality of your life is inseparable from the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the mind becomes colored by what it repeatedly dwells upon. If your attention remains fixed on someone who is no longer walking beside you, you unknowingly allow yesterday's story to dictate tomorrow's possibilities. The past cannot be rewritten, but the present can still be directed. Every thought you choose to entertain is either strengthening the chains that bind you to what is gone or building the foundation for the person you are becoming. Your inner world is like a garden. Whatever you water with your attention will inevitably grow, whether it is peace or pain, wisdom or regret, hope or despair. Now imagine what would happen if you redirected that same emotional energy toward creating a life that inspires you. Imagine investing the hours once spent overthinking into strengthening your body, expanding your knowledge, deepening your faith, nurturing your family, pursuing meaningful goals, and becoming a person whose confidence comes from within rather than from another person's presence. Every moment you choose growth over rumination, you reclaim a piece of your future that the past was trying to steal. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we cannot always control the thoughts that first appear in our minds, but we can decide which ones deserve our attention and which ones should quietly pass without becoming permanent residents. Every intentional choice to focus on what you can control is an investment in a stronger character, a calmer mind, and a more purposeful life. The future is not created by extraordinary moments that happen once in a lifetime, it is created by the ordinary thoughts you choose every single day. When your attention becomes aligned with your values instead of your wounds, your life begins to transform in ways you never thought possible. The moment you stop allowing yesterday to occupy today's mind is the moment tomorrow finally has the space to become something greater than you ever imagined. Acceptance is often misunderstood as surrender, weakness, or admitting defeat, but in truth it is one of the greatest acts of inner strength a person can achieve. Many people resist acceptance because they believe it means saying that what happened was fair, deserved, or somehow acceptable. Stoic philosophy teaches something entirely different. Acceptance does not ask you to approve of betrayal, loss, heartbreak, or disappointment. It simply asks you to acknowledge reality as it is instead of exhausting yourself by arguing with what has already happened. No amount of regret can rewrite yesterday, and no amount of resistance can force life to return to a version that no longer exists. The more you fight reality, the more power you unknowingly give to your pain. You remain trapped between what is and what you desperately wish had been. The Stoics understood that suffering is often prolonged not by the event itself, but by our refusal to accept its finality. Peace begins the moment you stop demanding that life obey your expectations and start responding wisely to the life that is actually in front of you. Acceptance is not the end of hope, it is the beginning of clarity, because only when you see reality without illusion can you decide what your next step should be. The moment you truly accept what cannot be changed, something remarkable happens, you reclaim the energy that has been imprisoned by resistance. Every day spent asking, "Why did this happen?" or "What if things had been different?" quietly drains the strength that could have been used to build a better future. But when you release the impossible task of rewriting the past, your attention returns to the only place where real change is possible, the present moment. That is where your power has always lived. Letting go does not make you weaker, it makes you available for growth. It frees your mind from endless battles it was never meant to win and allows your heart to invest in new purpose, deeper wisdom, stronger character, and a life that is no longer defined by one painful chapter. Stoic philosophy reminds us that true freedom is not found in controlling what happens to us, but in mastering how we respond to it. Acceptance is the quiet decision to stop giving yesterday authority over today. It is the moment you stop carrying the weight of what you cannot change and begin carrying the responsibility of becoming the person you are capable of becoming. That is not giving up, it is taking your power back, reclaiming your peace, and choosing a future that is built on courage instead of regret. Loneliness is often treated as something to fear, avoid, or escape, but Stoic philosophy invites us to see it from a completely different perspective. Silence feels uncomfortable because, without the noise of constant conversations, entertainment, or relationships, you are finally left alone with your own thoughts. For many people, this is the hardest place to be. It reveals the insecurities they have ignored, the wounds they have hidden, and the questions they have been too busy to answer. That is why so many rush into another relationship before truly healing from the last one. They are not always searching for love, they are searching for relief from the discomfort of being alone. But temporary companionship can never heal a heart that has not learned to be at peace with itself. The Stoics believe that solitude is not a punishment but a classroom. It is in moments of quiet that you discover your true values, strengthen your character, and learn that your happiness cannot permanently depend on another person's presence. Every hour spent understanding yourself is an investment that no one can ever take away. The person who becomes comfortable in their own company develops a kind of inner stability that remains unshaken by the changing circumstances of life. The strongest people are not those who never experience loneliness, they are those who transform loneliness into wisdom, confidence, emotional resilience, and self-respect. Instead of allowing silence to become a source of suffering, they use it to grow into someone they genuinely enjoy spending time with. They pursue meaningful goals, deepen their faith, care for their health, expand their knowledge, and build a life filled with purpose rather than dependency. As this inner foundation grows stronger, something extraordinary begins to happen. They stop looking for someone to complete them because they have already discovered that they are whole. Future relationships are no longer built from fear of being alone but from a desire to share an already meaningful life. This changes everything. You become less willing to tolerate disrespect, emotional neglect, or relationships that drain your peace simply because you fear solitude. When you no longer see loneliness as your enemy, it loses its power over you. You realize that being alone is far less painful than being with someone who makes you feel unseen, unheard, or emotionally abandoned. The relationship you cultivate with yourself becomes the standard for every relationship that follows. And when your own company feels like a place of peace rather than emptiness, you stop accepting people who make you feel lonely even while standing right beside you. The desire to prove yourself after heartbreak is one of the most natural human reactions. Part of you wants the person who walked away to see what they lost, to realize your worth, and to regret the decision they made. But if your growth depends on someone else's reaction, then your peace is still tied to their opinion. Stoic philosophy offers a far more liberating path. It teaches that the greatest transformation is not driven by revenge but by purpose. Instead of asking how you can make someone miss you, ask how you can become the highest version of yourself regardless of whether they ever look back. Every hour spent trying to impress someone who has already chosen a different path is an hour taken away from building the life you truly deserve. Real growth begins when your motivation shifts from seeking external validation to pursuing internal excellence. Learn the skills you once postponed. Strengthen your body until it reflects the discipline of your mind. Protect your inner peace with the same determination you once used to protect a relationship. Deepen your faith, expand your knowledge, develop your character, and create a life so rich in meaning that your happiness no longer depends on the presence or absence of any one person. When your purpose becomes greater than your pain, the wounds that once defined you slowly become the foundation of your strength. One day, you will realize something extraordinary has happened. The person you spent so much time thinking about no longer occupies the center of your world. Not because you forced yourself to forget them, but because your own life has become too meaningful to remain trapped in yesterday. You wake up with goals that excite you, relationships that nourish you, and a quiet confidence that cannot be shaken by another person's choices. This is the victory the Stoics spoke of, a victory that happens within, where no applause is needed and no audience is required. You are no longer chasing recognition because you have learned to recognize your own worth. You are no longer waiting for an apology because your peace no longer depends on someone else's words. You are no longer hoping they regret losing you because your greatest achievement is no longer connected to their opinion at all. Real success is silent. It does not announce itself or seek approval. It reveals itself in your calmness during chaos, your discipline when no one is watching, your kindness without expectation, and your ability to move forward without bitterness. The greatest revenge is not making someone wish they had stayed, it is becoming so transformed through wisdom, resilience, faith, and relentless personal growth that the person you are today is almost unrecognizable to the one who once believed heartbreak would define your future. One day, without you even noticing when the change began, the person who once occupied every corner of your mind will simply become another chapter in the story of your life. Right now, that may seem impossible. The memories still feel vivid, the emotions still arrive without warning, and there are moments when it seems as though your heart will never stop carrying the weight of what was lost. You may wonder if you will always think of them when you hear a certain song, visit a familiar place, or experience a quiet moment alone. But healing rarely announces itself with dramatic breakthroughs. It happens quietly, through countless ordinary days when you choose to keep moving forward despite the pain. Time, by itself, does not heal every wound. What heals you is what you do with the time you are given. Every day you choose acceptance over resentment, growth over regret, discipline over emotional habit, and hope over despair, you loosen the grip the past has on your heart. One morning you will realize that several hours passed without thinking about them. Later, those hours will become days, then weeks, and eventually you will remember them not with overwhelming sadness but with quiet understanding. The person who once felt like your entire world will become one meaningful chapter among many, no longer the center of your identity or the author of your future. Stoic philosophy reminds us that everything in life exists only for a season. Joy comes and goes. Success rises and falls. Pain arrives and eventually softens. Even the memories that once seemed impossible to escape gradually lose their power when they are no longer fed by constant attention. This is not because what happened becomes unimportant, but because you become stronger than the pain it once carried. Your experiences remain part of your story, yet they no longer define who you are. Instead, they become the lessons that shaped your wisdom, strengthened your character, and prepared you for the life that still lies ahead. One day you will look back with gratitude, not because heartbreak was easy, but because it forced you to discover a resilience you never knew you possessed. You will see that every difficult step, every lonely night, every moment of choosing yourself over the past was quietly leading you toward the peace you had been searching for all along. Your future is not waiting for someone else to return, it is waiting for you to fully arrive. Keep walking with courage, even when progress feels invisible. Trust that every small act of self-respect, every moment of discipline, and every decision to embrace reality instead of resisting it is shaping a life far greater than the one you thought you had lost. One day, they will simply become another chapter, but the person you become because of that chapter will be the greatest story you ever write. The day you stop chasing the echoes of yesterday is the day your soul finally hears the voice of tomorrow. Tell me honestly, what is the one memory or lesson from someone you couldn't let go of that ultimately made you stronger? Share your answer in the comments because your story might be the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. If you think I provided you with valuable content today, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss more powerful lessons on Stoicism, emotional strength, and personal growth. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message, and leave your thoughts in the comments section. Your experience, your wisdom, and your story could inspire someone else to begin their journey toward peace, resilience, and a stronger life.